What's up, y'all? So I just made it to the Tennessee Valley Museum and saw 6:30 right here.
On the way back, if you don't mind. That still gets them a good 3-mile ride. All right, everybody, all colors will now be called. If you have a red, blue, tan, green, yellow, orange, or pink wristband, come out the double door.
So we're going in 1488. So Orlando Northwestern, folks. This closest.
How many folks having your party? It'll be on the right here, not this one, but the next.
Train is.
Cambridge Local. My name is Zach. I'll be your tour guide and brakeman for this journey back in time. The voice in the ceiling. Your trainman today is Josh, your conductor is Dave, and your engine crew is Frank and Tim. As we depart, I am required to state per order of the TSA, the Transportation Security Administration, and the FRA, the Federal Railroad Administration, that face masks are required while on board per federal law. Face masks are to be worn at all times. Failure to comply will result in denial of warning or removal and may result in federal penalties. Also, please stay seated in the seats assigned to you by the train crew at all times for your safety. And keep in mind there is only one set of restrooms on the train functional for your use. There is a yellow car midway to the train for emergency use only. For those of you that have not ridden with us before, we are what is considered a historic railroad, not a scenic railway, meaning the focus of this journey is going to be the history of the line and the equipment, rather than what you see out the window. This trip in particular will be approximately a 55-minute experience. That includes 15 to 20 minutes of travel in each direction on these 3 miles of track donated to us by the Southern Railway, and a 20 to 25-minute layover in East Chattanooga, where we'll have a demonstration of our turntable as we spin the locomotive around 180 degrees for the return trip to Grand Junction. You're riding on one of the first railroads into Chattanooga today. This line was completed in 1859 by the East Tennessee and Georgia Railroad. The ET&G would merge with a number of other railroads over time to eventually become the famous Southern Railway in 1894. The Southern would continue to use this 3-mile stretch of track until they abandoned it in the 1950s, for reasons I'll explain later in our journey. They would build a new line to the north, which you saw behind Grand Junction Station, and that line is still used today by the Southern Railway's successor, the Norfolk Southern Corporation. Then, of course, after they abandoned the line, they would donate the 3 miles to us, which we still use here at the museum. Out to the left of our train, there's a gravel road. That gravel road is the roadbed for the original 1859 right-of-way. The line was elevated to its current height and position in the first decade of the 20th century by the Southern Railway due to numerous occasions of flooding. Chattanooga used to be extremely prone to flooding before the construction of the Chickamauga Dam during the Great Depression.
I never noticed that there was a
We're now
tree on
crossing the
there.
first bridge over South Chickamauga Creek. To the left there is a set of stone piers. Those stone piers mark the site of the original bridge. On top of those stone piers would have been a wooden decking that the rails would have run on. The original bridge in that location was made entirely of stone and was washed away in a flood in 1861. Unfortunately, an engineer did not see that that bridge had washed away in time, and, well, let's just say he and his train went for a swim.
I thought they were not there at first.
The current bridge span we just crossed over was built for the Southern Railway in 1912. We're about to cross our second bridge over the Western Atlantic Railroad. That line you'll see below us here was the first line into Chattanooga, being completed by the state of Georgia in 1850. That line runs from Atlanta to Chattanooga, and is still owned by the state of Georgia today. They currently lease it out to CSX. That line is also home to a very famous story from the Civil War. Some of you may have heard of it, and that would be the Great Locomotive Chase.
What in the
For
hell?
those of you that have not heard of it, the Great Locomotive Chase is the story of Union spy James Andrews and 23 others known as Andrews Raiders. They disguised themselves as civilians and made their way to Big Shanty, Georgia, which is today Kennesaw, Georgia, and stole a locomotive named General while it was on a fuel, water, and mill stop. They planned to race the General all the way north to Chattanooga, while burning bridges and destroying track and telegraph wires along the way in an effort to sever the crucial Confederate supply artery. They were pursued by the General's conductor, William Fuller, and a locomotive he commandeered named the Texas. The Texas was facing south, so for the duration of the chase, he had to run the locomotive in reverse.
Yeah, there was a
The
track
General
there.
ran out of fuels north of Ringgold, Georgia, about 18 miles down the track of Chattanooga.
There was recently a
All of
track
them were caught,
installed.
8 of them, including Andrews himself,
store
are unfortunately
other
from
equipment.
Atlanta. They are today buried at the Chattanooga National Cemetery around the
Yeah, you can tell this place has changed a lot.
miles from our current location. The rest of the men either escaped prison or were exchanged for Confederate prisoners. Andrews Raiders was the very first to ever receive the Medal of Honor. But Andrews himself did not, as he was a civilian and not eligible.
2594.
If you'd like to know more on the topic, there are many books and films
1829.
based on the event, including Buster Keaton's silent film, The General, and one of Walt Disney's lesser-known films from the 1950s, also titled The Great Locomotive Chase. Both locomotives involved in that chase are still preserved today. The Texas is on display at the Atlanta History Center in Atlanta, Georgia, and the General is on display at the Southern Museum of Civil War and Locomotive History in
United
Kennesaw,
States Army
Georgia.
71,000.
Now, just a bit about the coaches you're riding in today. 1949, by the
Next up, we
Bud
gotta
Company
cross
for the
the-
Norfolk and Western
bridge that
Railway,
leads to Tunnel
originally
Boulevard,
built as an SS-1
which we all
class
know.
sleeping car used on a passenger train named the Cavalier. It was later sold to the Pennsylvania Railroad and converted to a commuter car. Yellow wristband, you're in heavyweight coach 1037, built in 1911 by the Pullman Company for the Southern Railway. Also originally built as a sleeping car, that one would later be converted to a passenger coach in 1954 to avoid maintenance costs. After the land was donated to us, we put a bridge over this gap, so today we have a tunnel boulevard without a tunnel. It's also the only place, if you have an open window, for your safety, I do have to ask that you keep all body parts inside the train at all times, like in the tunnel, as distance between us and the tunnel walls is less than 1 foot at times. This tunnel cost an arm and a leg to build over 160 years ago, and would hate for it to cost you an arm and a leg to travel through it, so please keep them in the train. If you have a flashlight app on your cell phones, I do encourage you to have them out at this time to shine them off the windows and illuminate the tunnel walls as we pass through so you can view them.
And take a curve.
That was the whistle of our locomotive you just heard, signaling our approach to the tunnel, meaning we will be entering the tunnel at any moment. So I hope no one on board is scared of the dark. But if you are, just close your eyes.
Alright, y'all, so we're about to go through the Missionary Ridge Tunnel, and I'll show my flashlight on my phone, just so that you can get a better view of it. Alright. I never noticed there was a waterfall down there. Yeah, I never noticed it. Never knew this. It's a lot ratchet back there.
We are now on the west side of Missionary Ridge. You can imagine traveling on a Southern Railway passenger train in the early 20th century, as this is how you would have approached downtown Chattanooga. Right through that tunnel there, with your final destination being Terminal Station, which has today been converted into the Chattanooga Choo Choo Hotel. Of course, passenger trains back then would have consisted of more than just passenger coaches. For example, there might have been a baggage car, an RPO car, sleeping car, lounge car, on some trains even a dome car or an observation car. Then on most trains was my favorite, the dining car. Speaking of dining car, who knows how a steam locomotive eats?
Yeah, right.
It's choo choo choo. I've got more where that came from, only $1 each. Now we have almost reached the end of the 3 miles of track donated to us by the Southern Railway. So in another 5 minutes or so, we'll be coming to a stop at our East Chattanooga Depot. Once there, you have the option of either staying on board the train for the layover, or joining me as we do a demonstration of our turntable.
One of our main steam mechanics. He is responsible for maintaining this locomotive and ensure its continued operation, spending many hours every week working on this locomotive to keep it in good condition. So everyone give him a wave and a round of applause. He deserves it. The way this locomotive operates is up in the cab there. Our fireman Tim is feeding 3 to 6 tons of coal a day into the firebox where it is burning. On the front side of the firebox, there are a series of tubes that run the length of the boiler. Those are called the flues. The hot gases from the fire travel through the flues and then up and out the stack. Surrounding the flues and the firebox is water. That water is heated by those hot gases and converts to steam. Steam, of course, does expand, raising the boiler pressure, in this case up to 190 psi. When Frank opens that throttle, that steam is channeled down into the large cylinders you see on either side of the engine. Inside the cylinders is a large piston the steam is pushing on either side of. Those pistons are connected to the rods you see on the side of the engine, and those rods are connected to the driving wheels. So as the piston is being moved in and out, it is rotating the rods, therefore turning the driving wheels and propelling the locomotive. After that steam has been used, it mixes with the hot gases in the smoke box here at the front of the locomotive, and then shoots up and out the stack. And that's that exhausting steam that gets the chugging sound you hear when you see a steam locomotive. Now, if you have a look up in the cab again, you'll see our fireman Tim. He's responsible for feeding that fire as well as maintaining the water level in the boiler to produce all the steam this engine operates on. Without him, it wouldn't be going anywhere, so give him a wave as well. Now, this locomotive is classified as a 280 consolidation. What that means is that it has 2 small pilot wheels in the front, 8 large drive wheels in the middle, and no trailing wheels under the cab and firebox, one of the more common steam locomotive wheel arrangements there was. Now, you probably haven't seen our equipment before, not even realizing it. We are very often involved in music video and film productions. For example, we've worked with both Johnny Cash and Josh Turner on music videos filmed involving our equipment. And films such as October Sky with James Gyllenhaal and Laura Dern, Leatherhead with George Clooney, Water for Elephants with Robert Pattinson and Reese Witherspoon, and most recently 42 with Chadwick Boseman.
It's good to be out here. You enjoyed this trip of the Tennessee Valley Rim Museum, and I know 6:30 is backing up, and hope to see y'all in the next video.